Hello and welcome everyone to the first Spartan race, May 22nd, 2022 in Austin, Texas. The first race is what is called a Spartan Sprint, which is a 5K with about 20 obstacles over rugged terrain. This year for the sprint, we had a team of 4. You will see Cassandra in the orange tank top, Leonard in the dark blue long sleeve shirt, and you will see Austin in the light blue tank top with the curly hair. At this point, I had realized I had made a rookie mistake and forgot to start my Garmin watch, but thankfully we had only went about 0.2 miles. Over the dirt mound ahead of us, we will be coming up to the first obstacle, which is about a 4-foot wall, and the obstacles only get harder the farther you get along in the course. The next obstacle we encounter is like a 4x4 post that is about chest high off of the ground for most people, except maybe Leonard, which you'll see in the next clip. next we have another wall that's about 6 or 7 feet tall, and it's a little bit harder to get over for some people. So throughout the course there'll be several grip related obstacles, and I've learned with experience to bring a chalk ball in a plastic bag in case there's any water crossings to keep it dry. We are approaching the first grip obstacle of the course, which is the rings, which you basically just have to grab on and swing across to the other side and hit the bell. You'll see what I mean about using the chalk to help with your grip, as me and Cassandra are the only two that chalked up for this course, while Austin and Leonard did not, and you will see the results of that. With this obstacle, it does take a little bit of technique and momentum to swing from one ring to the next. As you'll see, Leonard is a little bit tall for this obstacle, and Austin can't quite figure out the technique from swinging from one ring to the next, while Cassandra absolutely crushed this obstacle and did a great job.
Yeah, Cassandra! Yeah! Show these boys how it's done. Come on, you almost to that bell. How about this? Come on, Cassandra, hit that bell. There it is. Making them look bad.
In the past, for Spartan races, if you're unable to complete an obstacle, they usually want you to complete 30 burpees. This is the first year where I've seen them implement a penalty loop, which just happens to be an extra course that you have to run as a penalty for certain obstacles. The next obstacle we have is the barbed wire crawl, which isn't overly difficult, but this year, with the heat outside in Texas, the sand was so hot that I physically got blisters on my hands from it burning my skin. The next obstacle is the inverted wall, which once again isn't overly complicated. It just takes a little bit of momentum to get over the wall. Next up is the Atlas stone carry, where for the guys the stone is 100 pounds plus, and for the females it's probably between 70 and 80 pounds. You have to carry it down to the end of the course, around the flag, and back. The next obstacle is the cargo net climb, which is pretty self-explanatory, and it's not an overly complicated obstacle. Up next is the bucket carry. For the guys, I believe the bucket is between 60 and 70 pounds. For the girls, I think it's between 40 and 50 pounds. And they're not overly particular on how you carry the bucket, but you just have to carry the bucket down the course, around, and bring it back. It has a couple of dirt mounds and stuff you have to climb over, but as long as you keep moving, it's not too bad. Austin and Cassandra actually had a pretty good lead on me for this obstacle, so I was trying to pick up the pace to catch up with them. Up next we have a wooden ladder that climbs up to a flat structure, and then you just climb back down the other side. It's not very complicated. Up next, we have a zigzag wall. You can pick either side, and it has footholds and handholds, and you just have to traverse to the other side and hit the bell.
It's on the other side.
Reach around.
There it is. Oh, there we go.
And now we move on to the spear throw. You're supposed to only get one shot at this, and then you have to do 30 burpees if you can't make it. But most people just try several times, and if they don't get it, they end up doing burpees. And also, Austin decided to take over as the cameraman for a little while, so you'll get to see his point of view.
There it is. All right. Got it? Yeah. Yeah. Got on camera too. Yeah. Heck yeah. You got this. Yeah. Got you stuck. Did you get it on your first try? I did, yeah.
The spear throw does take a little bit of technique to get it to stick, and I tried to help out Leonard as much as I could, but eventually we just moved on to the next obstacle. This obstacle is called the Hercules Hoist. For the guys, you have to hoist a 100-pound sandbag to the top, and you have to lower it back down. You cannot drop it. For the women, I believe the sandbag weighs maybe 70 or 80 pounds, so it's still very heavy. This is the only water obstacle for this specific course, and the water is pretty nasty, but just jump in. You have to go under the wall, come back up, and wait for everybody else. This is the cargo net obstacle that we ran under at the beginning of the race. Next is the sandbag carry. For the guys, I believe the sandbag is 60 pounds, and for the women, the sandbag is 40 pounds. Once again, they're not overly technical on how you carry the sandbag, but I found the easiest way was just to carry it on top of my head. And I apologize for the lens being dirty. After the water obstacle, we didn't have anything dry to wipe the lens off with, so there's a mud smudge on the lens for the majority of the rest of the video.
it on the head, bro.
I had it up there most of the time.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had it up there most of the time.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
And now for the infamous rope climb, which if you don't have experience climbing a rope, or you just don't have a lot of climbing pulling power, this obstacle can be pretty difficult. I believe me and Austin were the only two that completed it, but something that was really impressive was a woman that was pregnant trying to do the rope climb, and she got very close several times, and then finally she just had to move on. She was just exhausted, but it was just really impressive to watch. Alright, I think we're getting close to the end of the course. There's Amanda waiting for us, rooting us on. And these are the monkey bars, which I found for me to go kind of sideways, I can move pretty quickly. And I believe everybody completed this obstacle. After this, the final obstacle is called the Helix, which is a pretty simple obstacle. And I did not record it because I handed the camera off to the kids so we could all cross the finish line together. This concludes the first Spartan race of 2022. Stay tuned for the Super 10K in Colorado Springs.